What's going on, guys? Mikey Balls right here. And there's a strong misconception when it comes to fishing these guys, square bills. And it gets hot out, it's summer, and everybody puts away their box of square bills. Well, I'm gonna tell you that's a no-no. And I'm gonna tell you exactly why and exactly what you can do with this thing during the hot summer months to catch some bass. So in spring, the running MO for fishing a square bill is, slowly bump it off the cover. You got lower water temps, so the fish metabolism is a lot slower. They're a little more lethargic. Well, it's the exact opposite in summer. Basically, what you do is you take that square bill and you burn it, crash it, fry it through those shallow water flats. And what's nice in summer is you have a lot of this vegetation that's growing up, you got trees, you have all this cover, and crashing it and ripping it into that cover really creates a reaction. And in my opinion, for big bass, especially during summer up in the shallows, it's all about creating that reaction situation. So what you can do is basically, you take this square bill, and you actually use the bill to sort of impact that cover. We're surrounded by a bunch of milfoil right here. So what I'll do is actually slang it out, make as long of a cast as possible. Maybe keep my rod tip up a little bit higher because basically that grass has come up just below the surface, and I'll run that bait down into the grass. And when I feel that grass, it's almost like when you're trap fishing in early spring, I'll rip my rod, and this bait will actually erratically kind of go all over the place, hunt to the left, hunt to the right, and then it'll recorrect itself, because that's what crankbaits do. They kind of have that straightforward trajectory. It'll recorrect itself, and oftentimes that's exactly when you're going to get your bite. So one really important aspect of this technique is equipment. We always talk about gear playing a huge role in how the bait operates. Well, it's the same in this case. During the spring when you're fishing a square bill, oftentimes fish bite light. You'll notice a lot of the fish that you catch, your rod just kind of loads up. So you use more of a medium action, maybe even a fiberglass rod at times. It's summer, these fish are scooching, moving, plus you're fishing this lure around pretty heavy cover. So you gotta kind of stouten up the way you're presenting this bait. I like putting this thing on a medium heavy, a little bit longer rod, 7.2, 7.3, a little bit over 7 foot, because I'm not so much fishing specific shallow targets like I would in spring, maybe docks or specific stumps. I'm really casting out to flats and covering those new grass flats, where the grass is topped off and spread out. So a long cast is really important. The other thing is it gives me a little more leverage on the fish. Medium heavy, stouter backbone. If those fish dive into the grass, I can go ahead and tug them out. Also, I'll run this on 15-pound fluorocarbon. Usually I'll run my square bills in spring like on 12 because I want to get it down a little bit deeper. I want something stronger, dude. Like these fish smoke the bait, plus I'm putting a lot of tension on the line when I'm ripping that bait out. The other thing too is I actually run a 7-2-1 reel. I know that sounds like you're overwinding for a crankbait, but I really want to be able to kind of move that bait quickly through the grass and pick up line very quickly. So that kind of combination allows me to get fish out and fish this thing exactly how I need to, burning it through the grass and through that heavy cover. So what are you looking for when you're doing this burning technique? You can see we're kind of in the back of a pocket, giant flat, right? A lot of space. That's why it's great to fish this thing as fast as we do. But you can see there's tons of grass coming up. Also, you can see there's nobody back here because they're all fishing deep. That's another cool part about this is you can target some areas that guys aren't fishing, but all you're gonna do is make a super long cast. I'm actually gonna go kind of towards the tip of that tree because I see a clump of grass right there. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna reel and get that bait down. And then here's where the magic happens. So kind of burning it and I hang on some grass. And almost just like a trap, you're just gonna rip up, and what that does is it causes that bait to rip off the grass. It clears the bait of any grass or anything that's kind of clinging to it, and that's usually when you're gonna get a bite, because as fish see it, it sort of flutters up, and then it slowly floats up, and they go, that's exactly what we want to happen. But big deal is long cast, and then that ripping motion. That's really what's gonna draw your reaction when you're using this technique. This entire technique relies on two things: reeling it fast, and hanging up on stuff like that. If your bait ain't hitting cover, if it's not getting like stuck on stuff and you're not ripping it off, you're not catching fish. Two quick tips when you're doing this crankbait deal. One, it's something that I do with all my crankbaits. I put that beautiful little clip on there and I get tons of questions about it all the time. It's basically just a little clip so I can quickly change to different colors, different lures, different depths. It makes you super efficient instead of tying knots all the time. The other thing is too, since we're fishing around a lot of this shallow cover and this shallow grass, you can really control the depth of your crankbait by where your rod tip is at. So let me show you real quick. So I'm gonna make a cast. So the deepest your bait's gonna run is obviously when your rod tip is down. But if you're dealing with a lot of like grass flats where it's coming pretty high up, you can kind of put your rod tip up at about 11 o'clock and kind of keep it above the grass. And you need to play with that depending on what your cover looks like, how deep it is, and what situation you're in. But it gives you a lot more versatility with one crankbait, because you can make a 6-foot runner run 3 foot. You can make a 6-foot runner run 1 foot, all depending on where you have that rod tip pointed. It might be summer, those bass might be deep, but grab your spring square bill box and get yourself shallow. Start ripping that thing off of grass. You'll be amazed how many fish you find up in the skinnies, causing them to react, burning the square bill.